So perspectives in analysis services helps us in customizing the view of the cube. So imagine a cube having let us say 20 measure groups and 10 different dimensions, and out of which business is interested only in half of the dimensions. That means you are building a cube for two business users, two different groups of business users, and one business user is interested in only one set of measures and dimensions. Okay. So this is our cube that we built, Adventure Works. If you look at this cube, we have three different kinds of dimensions for date. One is order date, ship date, and due date. Let us say we built this cube for multiple groups of users, or at least three different groups of users. One group of users are interested in looking at orders information, and the other group of users are interested in looking shipping details, and then another group of users are interested in due date. Okay. So these are three different kinds of user bases we have, and if orders related or the business who is interested in looking in orders doesn't want to see ship date and due date related information, we can restrict the view based on perspectives. So perspectives enable us to restrict the view. When we have multiple users, like the scenario I was talking, when we have different groups of users, and we need to restrict the users view, basically I am not saying access, because perspectives are not for security. So if you want to restrict the user view on the cube, we can use perspectives. So to use the perspectives, we go to the cube and there is a tab called perspectives. Okay. So perspectives is in, if you look at the sequel, it is like creating a view on top of a table. So if a table has 10 different columns and you want to expose only 5 columns, you create a view on top of the table, right? Select whatever columns from the table. So similarly, perspective is a restricted view of the cube. So to create the by default, there will be one perspective, that is the whole cube. This is the whole cube you see here, perspective. So if you want to create a new perspective, go to the perspectives tab and say new perspective, and you can call perspective name, so like order business. I am just calling orders view. Orders view is my perspective. And here once you name the perspectives, you will have options to choose. That means which of the dimensions and which of the measures should be visible in this given perspective. So in my case, I want to show only order related information. That means order related dimension for this perspective. So I will go ahead and select order date, and customer maybe I want, geography I want, but I don't want ship date, I don't want due date. Okay. So I uncheck these two dimensions. That means I don't want to show these two dimensions in this perspective. So that's it. So you pick whatever items you want to show, not only the dimensions, but within the dimensions you go all the way to the levels. So for example, within order date, I want to show only calendar hierarchy, I don't want to show physical hierarchy. So I can uncheck that. So I need to pick whatever items I want to show to the user in the perspective, and once I pick the items, I just need to save it and deploy. Save this one and deploy it to the server. once we deploy, so deployment failed, the package could not be deployed to the local host because of connectivity problems. Okay, give me 1 second here, I need to start my services. Okay, let's try to deploy again. Okay, so deployment is complete. I had to restart my services. So once that is done, we will go to the management studio and try to browse the cube. So I will expand the cube and say, sorry, expand the cube database, browse. So when we are browsing the cube, we have the option to pick the required perspective. So here you can see you have the option to pick perspectives. So if I see orders view perspective, I will see only the dimensions that I picked. So within the order date, I won't see the physical hierarchy because we unchecked the physical hierarchy in the perspective, right. So we see only the members, or we see only the dimensions, levels, and only the items that we selected here to be shown in the perspective. Similarly, if you go to Excel, so let's try to open the Excel. Data, existing other sources, and local host. Next. So here you see two perspectives. If I pick orders view perspective, I will see only the items that I selected during my perspective creation. Okay, so I see geography, customer, and order date. So like that we can use perspectives to restrict the view. Okay, so that is important. When you are saying perspectives, we are basically restricting the view of the cube, but it does not implement any security. When we say restricting the view, we are not implementing any security, saying that user has no access to the specific dimension. That security we are not setting through perspectives. Perspectives is restricting the view. That means user can still go to the other perspectives and see the data, because user has access to the data, but in the perspective we have just restricted the view. Same as SQL table, right. If a user has access to the table, and when you create a view with just showing 5 columns out of the 10 columns that are existing in the table, user can still go and query the table as long as he or she has access to that particular table, right. Similar thing in the cube. When you are creating perspectives, we are restricting the view of the cube, but we are not enforcing any security. Okay, and to create the perspectives, you need to go to perspective tab and pick the perspective, or pick the items you want to show in a given perspective. Similarly, you can create multiple perspectives just by clicking new perspective. Okay, you can click we can create any number of perspectives, and each perspective you can restrict the view. So if we go back to our scenario where we had 3 different group of users interested in different data items within the cube. So you can create 3 different perspectives and ask the users to use that perspective to get their information what they want, instead of having access to all the data and getting confused. They can use the perspective so that they can do focused analysis. Okay, that is about perspectives.